now Dublin. Gerry McGeough.
Gia was mar a díomh McGeough Ghall as Ghall, the ahas nóir armsa and then Shaw knew. Jamie Hope was a wonderful activist, a United Irishman of great renown who lived well into the 19th century. Aside from his activities during the 1798 period, he is also well known for having kept a record of those events. And one of his statements that sticks out is that which said that for those who were not alive at the time, it is almost impossible to describe for them what the events were like. And in many respects, it is quite similar when we reflect upon the era of the hunger strikes from October 1980 all the way through to almost a year later in October of 1981. We all of us have our poignant memories of the event. Few amongst us who were there at the time could possibly forget where we were when we learned of the death of Bobby Sands. We must also keep in mind the fact that these men, the men who died at that time, brought home to us a tremendous awareness, a sense of emotion, which is very, very difficult to convey to people who were not around at the time. Bear in mind, it was 25 years ago. Anyone who was born in 1981 has now grown up to be practically a parent themselves. So to convey to those people what it was like back then is quite nigh impossible. Not so much because of the occurrences, not so much because of the events, but to convey the actual emotions of the period. And those emotions ranged widely. They ranged from anger and frustration all the way through to a great bursting national pride. Anger and frustration at the fact that young men had to wallow in the terror that they had to go through the squalor for year after year and finally die in traumatic death for something that was in essence their very right. Frustration at the fact that no one seemed to be paying attention. No one in the government circles in Dublin or elsewhere were laying into what they should have been doing, were upholding the rights of these men. They simply weren't there. They were doing as they usually do and have continued to do, stand idly by. But we must also keep in mind that this period brought home to us here in Ireland a great sense of national pride. To be an Irish man and woman and to know that there were men like these produced by our generation is something absolutely phenomenal. We all have our memories. I recall having been active during the Bobby Sands election campaign, sitting and manning a booth in Castle Caulfield in South Tyrone, effectively a loyalist city at the village at the time. And as we gathered there in the morning, loyalists came along, unionists came along to jeer at us. One of them, the local Church of Ireland rector, unaffectionately known as Tipperary Tim, because apparently he was from Tipperary, gathered alongside those then young men who were canvassing on behalf of Sands and mocked Bobby, mocked the photographs of him, made fun of him. But as the day wore on and a steady trickle of nationalists came in and that trickle turned into a flood by evening time, Tipperary Tim was very, very silent indeed. And I recall also perhaps the most poignant event of that particular day, which showed the solidarity of the people. One old lady, a neighbour of mine who had been bedridden for years, was actually taken in a state wagon, taken there to Castle Caulfield and carried in by her neighbours into the polling booth so that she could vote for the young Irish Republican soldier and poet Bobby Sands, who was ultimately elected despite everything that they said would happen. That old hag, that evil demon Thatcher, said that there was no support for the Irish Republican Army. Was it transpired? There was a hell of a lot of support for them. And I also remember some years later, while a prisoner in Germany, which goes to show the international dimensions and impact of that hunger strike. As I was wandering, being an isolated, high-security prisoner, around this particular well-guarded yard on my own, from a distant cell block, a Turkish prisoner stretched his hand out through the bars, and he didn't speak very good English, but in broken English he shouted across to me, "Long live Bobby Sands, long live Bobby Sands." The effect of the Irish hunger strikers had inspired people right across the globe. Many people will tell you nowadays that the struggle that began in 1969 was all about achieving rights for nationalists and Catholics. Well, I would like to lay that fallacy to rest, McGeough. because the people like Bobby Sands and Martin Hurst and his colleagues who died such difficult deaths in horrendous situations, they who fought before they went to prison and their colleagues like them who fought before and afterwards, no man in his right mind lays down life, limb or liberty so that someone can get their drains cleaned out or get points on a housing list. We were fighting to put the British out of Ireland, plain and simple, end of story. And let me tell you, McGeough, that business is not finished by any stretch of the imagination. Call it what you will, say what you like. The hard reality is that British are still an occupational part of our country. Just this very day, excuse me, coming here to this great town in Donegal, just this very day I was stopped by the RUC or whatever it is they're calling themselves now, and told that I couldn't go into my local village in South Tyrone because it was fully occupied by British loyalists parading about celebrating some old pervert of a queen. And I had to make a detour, and let me tell you, having to waste petrol on that scum is very, very annoying indeed. Nevertheless, it irritates me to no end to come through the Clougher Valley and all the way up to the Fermanagh border and see filthy Union Jacks fluttering in the wind. This is Ireland. This is our nation. That is a foreign flag that should not be flying here. Now let me make it clear to all who are listening and tuned in, and I'm quite sure there are about 100 different intelligence agencies watching at the moment, but the good thing is, from their point of view, is one microphone will do because they're all the same. They're all reporting back to the same anyway. The fact is, there are still Irish men and women alive in Ireland this day. And as long as there's one Irish man alive, Britain will not rest secure in this country. This is our nation. We must dedicate ourselves in this day and age. We must see to it that we regroup and create a new mindset. Now those filthy perverts of MI5 are establishing a headquarters in the 6 counties next year. They're spending £30 million doing so. That doesn't sound to me like anybody's about to withdraw or leave by 2016 by any stretch of the imagination. They're doing that so that they will crush us again, so that they will nip in the bud any new rebellion. They're thinking that they can do that in any case. So I would say to yourselves, Ghall, be sure to be careful. Bear in mind that they will be monitoring everyone. They will be watching everyone. They'll be trying to see what's going on. Keep that in mind at all times. Keep in mind that whatever you say nothing is still as good a motto as ever it was. Keep in mind also that these people, in spite of all their technology and all the money that swills around, cannot beat the spirit of a people. The 1916 proclamation, which Declan read out for us there earlier on this afternoon, stated quite clearly that those men at arms, they were prepared to give their lives. They pledged themselves to this country and to God, and they said that they would win. Now, it may have seemed at the time that they were defeated, but as we all well know, they were ultimately successful. But their success depends, again, ultimately, on that flame being passed down from generation to generation, and on people like ourselves, those of us who are alive in this generation, seeing to it that the pure spirit of Irish nationalism and Irish independence is kept alive and well. This is an independent Irish country. This nation, from the centre to the sea, is one nation, and one nation with its own sovereignty. We should never surrender that sovereignty to the English. We should not surrender it to the Europeans or anybody else. So I know you've been standing all for a very long time this afternoon. I won't keep you much longer. All I want to say is that it is tremendous for me to see that there are people turning out in such great numbers on this occasion to pay homage and tribute to the brave men who gave their lives 25 years ago. They gave their lives to achieve what was by theirs a right, the right of political status. That right applies to all Irish Republican prisoners of whatever generation right up to the present. And we must see to it that they are permitted and allowed to enjoy that right. But ultimately, we as an Irish nation have the right to freedom. We have the right to independence. And we must state from this platform outwards that we are going to continually organise ourselves. We are going to strengthen ourselves. We are going to get into the right mindset, clear up all the English filth, all the porn stores and lap dancing clubs and all the rest that they are using, all the drugs that they are using, pumping into our youth in order to undermine the spirit of the Irish nation. Put an end to that nonsense. See to it that we become a disciplined people, a proud people, a people that deserve to get their independence and inherit their own country. And the only last thing I will say is that this is Ireland. England, get
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gerry. Now, we're just making a presentation, and would somebody give Bobby Sands and the picture of Bobby Sands to Brendan McGeough, who we will get to visit the Sands family and present the Bundoran there. This is from the H Block Committee of Bundoran and Ballyshannon. We have a drawing of all the hunger strikers, and we have a Bundoran that was made by the prisoners in Portlaoise jail, and we will present them now. And Brendan will get them by car to Belfast so they can present this to the Sands family. Now we have Anne O'Neill there to present to the Hughes family. To the Hughes family here. Just hold it for the time being, leave it there. Brendan McGeough, as I said, Francis Hughes there. We have two nephews of Francis Hughes here on the platform, and Anne O'Neill, their pastor, will present the brothers here, nephews of the Hughes family. We have with us today, I'm very proud to have her with us today, is the mother of Patsy O'Hara, Mrs. O'Hara, and we have Mary O'Neill there to present that prize, or not the prize, but we token from us. You can come up the steps there. These are the pencil drawings, and they have been done by Joe Lagan from Belfast and given to us. The Bundoran here, as you can see, has been done in Portlaoise jail by the Republican prisoners in Portlaoise, continuity prisoners, and they wanted to present something to the hunger strike family. Now, we will also get somebody to present to the McGeough family in Armagh. We'll have somebody down to present them with these tokens. Now we have Anne Shear there present Joe McDonald to the McDonalds. Mrs. McDonald herself, God rest her, always came and to here and never broke from once we started having this park here in memory of the prisoners to the McDonald family. Right? Next we have to the Hurson family, Margaret McGrath, present to the Hurson family. We feel ourselves that if you have not got your family behind you, it's hard over here. Sorry. Now we have Noel to present to no, Phyllis Cullen. Is Phyllis Cullen there? Phyllis Cullen. Phyllis Cullen. Yeah. I did tell you. I called people, whoever was presenting, praise, or not praise, but to the Lynch family. We have Noel there presenting to the McGeough family. Brother and sister there from the McGeough family. Have I left anybody out? I know I have the Divines to do yet. And Michael Devine, and they're represented to the Devine family. The ladies that are presenting this are part of the Divine family, and we have one last here, a picture also for Pat Ward, who died as a result of the hunger strike, and Phyllis. We're sorry, these things never run like top work anyway, not top work. But to Mary Ward, as I said, whose husband died as a result of a hunger strike in the Free State Jail, and Mary to Pat and the rest of them. We have Kieran Doherty. We'll also get, when we're presenting it to the Sands family and that, we'll get Brendan up that day and we'll present, and Raymond McPriest, we'll have somebody in the Gerry area present them. We go personally to them to present them with them. To these families, as I said, we owe the people who died a terrible lot. We owe these families a terrible lot because, as I said, without their support, we and the men who struggled through and gave their lives for Irish freedom could not have achieved what they've achieved. And we here in Bundoran, as long as we are about, there'll be a few of us not about in 25 years' time, I know, but as long as we are about, we will always honour the hunger strikers and all who give their lives for Irish freedom as long as we are here. Yeah, we also have for the Stag and Gahan family. I don't believe there's any of the Stag or Gahans here today, but we will also get that to them as well. So to all of you, next year will be the 26th, and we'll be here on the 26th. I left the council meeting over 25 years ago when they said we want to get these people off the streets. Well, we're not going to go off the streets until we have achieved a united Ireland free from the invaders, the occupier, Mother England. And I have a couple of young fellas that give us a good hand, young Brendan Casey and another young fella called Gallagher from Ballyshannon, and they're a long way younger than I am, and thanks be to God to see youth coming up, because as long as we have youth coming in, we will always remember and we will always uphold the principles of republicanism, which is the end of British and English rule in Ireland. Now we have the pipers there, and Piper from Antrim and that, and also the Emerald Boys. I don't know whether they're going to play together or not, but are on the field. Don't forget one last thing there. Tonight in the Holyrood Ballroom we'll have the Emerald Pipers and the Fenians in a ballad session, and the Pipers here all the way from America. That's in the Emerald or in the ballroom tonight in the Holyrood. Now the bands and that, there's a meal and that, and the colour party.